Good evening. Welcome to the Big Story. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Rachel Ho. And I'm Sean Yao.
Tonight's big stories. Police say new victims, some as young as 12 years old, have come forward to report that they too were sexually abused by Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder Apollo Quiboloy.
Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump face off in a fierce debate, which highlights how the dynamics of the U.S. presidential race have changed since President Biden's exit.
And alleged pogo point person Cassandra Ong runs to the Supreme Court, hoping that they will uphold her right to remain silent. We will be speaking to Congressman Ace Barbers, co-chairman of the House Quad Committee, about their next steps.
Well, this is not an easy headline to read, but police say minors as young as 12 years old have come forward to testify that they were also sexually abused by Apollo Quiboloy.
Well, they were allegedly part of what's called this inner circle pastorals. PNP Chief General Romel Marbil called it an alarming pattern of manipulation and exploitation.
Turns out some of these victims approached the police during the 2-week search operation over at the Kingdom of Jesus Christ compound in Davao City. Brian Castillo with a big story tonight.
Minors as young as 12 years old are among those who allegedly were abused by Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder Apollo Quiboloy. According to the police, these alleged victims reached out to them as they were serving the arrest warrants for Quiboloy and his co-accused inside the KOJC compound in Davao City.
May mga lumapit po sa PNP na nagsabi po na sila ay nabiktima rin po ni Pastor Quiboloy. We are now in the process of coordinating with the SWDs because accordingly, some of the parents of those abused children were the ones who approached our police officer there. At ngayon nga po, we are now in the process of documenting those allegedly additional victims of Pastor Quiboloy.
Fajardo did not detail the nature of the abuses, as the cases are still being documented. But PNP Chief General Romel Marbil said the complainants have provided crucial details about an alleged pattern of manipulation and exploitation of young women called inner circle pastorals, some as young as 12 years old. Marbil added that the police continue to gather and examine the evidence to ensure they build a strong case against Quiboloy. When asked for the reaction to this development, Quiboloy's lawyer, attorney Israelito Torion, said he couldn't comment yet as they haven't been given clear details on the allegations. But they are hoping that the PNP exercise fairness and professionalism in treating the alleged new discoveries and to do their job without much malicious publicity. Quiboloy is already facing multiple charges of sexual abuse, child abuse, and human trafficking here in the Philippines. On Friday, he and his co-accused are set to be arraigned in regional trial courts in Pasig and Quezon City. After an earlier conflict in schedule, it has been agreed to have Quiboloy attend the arraignment for the non-bailable qualified human trafficking charge at the Pasig RTC in the morning. His arraignment for the sexual and child abuse case at the Quezon City RTC follows in the afternoon via video conferencing. The court has ordered Quiboloy's personal appearance before his arraignment at the Pasig RTC. But citing security concerns, his lawyers are currently negotiating that this too be done remotely. The Senate likewise is seeking to have Quiboloy attend its next hearing.
Susulat na ako sa nauukol na korte para masigurong andito rin siya bilang pagsunod din sa standing warrant ng Senado para sa kanya. Marami kaming itatanong kay Apollo Quiboloy kung bakit talaga niya ginawa ang lahat ng ito.
Authorities are also appealing to other potential victims of Quiboloy and his group to come out and seek their help. For News 5, Brian Castillo. We are One News.
For the third straight year, the Philippines topped the World Risk Index report. Now, what does that mean exactly? Ria Fernandez with more details.
The recent storms that hit underscored not just how severe weather disturbances are becoming the norm, but also how inadequate the country's infrastructure remains. For instance, this barangay in Quezon City saw flood waters rise up as high as a 2-story house. Homes built with light material didn't provide much shelter either. So to prepare for the next typhoon or flash flood, this family has kept this old bathtub as their lifeboat.
Mahirap, nakakapagod, tapos nakakapuyat kasi hindi ka makatulog ng maayos kasi konting ulan lang, tumataas yung tubig, tsaka mahirap yung pagkain dito kasi lahat ng tindahan dito sarado.
Situations like this again landed the Philippines in the top spot of the World Risk Report by the Institute for International Law of Peace and Armed Conflict of the Royal University Bochum in Denmark. This index is widely used by governments and companies around the world. This year, countries were assessed on 5 indicators: levels of exposure, vulnerability, susceptibility, lack of coping capacities, and lack of adaptive capacities to crises including extreme natural disasters, conflicts, pandemics, and wars. The Philippines scored high to very high, where lower marks are better. Particularly in the lack of coping capabilities, the Philippines scored 58.07, while in the lack of adaptive capabilities, the Philippines scored 56.10. Coping involves various capacities and actions to counter the negative impacts of natural hazards and climate change and to minimize damage in the immediate aftermath of an event. Adaptation refers to long-term processes and strategies to counter, mitigate, or avoid future adverse impacts. For Dr. Mahar Lagmay, Director of the University of the Philippines Nationwide Operational Assessment of Hazards, it's time to change the way the country prepares for calamities.
Kailangan natin gumamit ng probabilistic risk assessment na sinasama mo yung maliit na baha, malaking baha, mas malaki pang baha, napakalaking baha, at saka climate change na baha na senaryo. Kailangan yung hazard map mo reflecting the changing times. May climate change scenario, mas malaki dun sa historical record, mas malaki dun sa naranasan natin.
Lagmay is pertaining to Project NOAA, an online risk reduction and management program that was jointly developed by UP and DOST. It was shut down during the time of former President Rodrigo Duterte and was later picked up by UP. Lagmay says almost 60% of local governments are now using it. Project NOAA's hazard map allows the public to see in real time which areas are most vulnerable to floods, landslides, and storm surges. The World Risk Index report pointed out that more than material damage, higher risk index scores also jeopardize livelihoods and have a significant impact on an individual's mental health. The Philippines also topped the World Risk Index in 2022 and 2023. This year, the 10 most at-risk hotspots are in the Americas and Asia, with Indonesia, India, Myanmar, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, the other Asian nations joining the Philippines in the top 10. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
Well, over in the United States, debate night did not disappoint. The first and what's likely the only televised face-off between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump was certainly full of quotable quotes that will resonate through to Election Day on November 5. It was tense from the get-go after a handshake initiated by Harris. The two presidential aspirants engaged in 90 minutes of heated exchange on key domestic and global issues. As expected, the economy was front and center, with surveys showing it's still the #1 issue for most voters, just like in the Philippines.
I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit.
We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago.
And then there was lengthy sparring on abortion. Vice President Harris is a known advocate of reproductive rights, while former President Trump took credit for overturning Roe v. Wade, the federal protection for abortion rights.
For 52 years, they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also.
The majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization.
Courtroom prosecutor, the United States Vice President tried to capitalize on Trump's liabilities in a way that President Joe Biden couldn't in his face-off with Trump back in June. Harris took jabs at her rival's conspiracy theories and stance on immigration and race.
So joining us tonight to weigh in on the debate, we've got 2 guests. First, from Washington, D.C. is political operative John Jose. He's the founder and CEO of American Tomorrow Project and the former National Asian Engagement Director of the Republican National Convention. And then from Berkeley in California, we have Gabriel Young. He's the Secretary of the Filipino Young Professionals, and Gabriel is, if you haven't picked up, a Democrat. Great to have you with us again, gentlemen.
And then good day sa inyong lahat. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for having us.
We could just have them both on screen again. It's been a very long day, so first thing I want to say is thank you so much. You've been appearing on our shows throughout the whole day, and we thank you for your time and your insights through this this momentous evening or morning, your time now. I've read a lot of reviews on the debate, so it's been 12 hours essentially. Most U.S. newspapers, news outlets are calling it for Kamala. They say that she won this debate clearly, but you don't have to take my word for it. I'm going to show you someone who's the authoritative voice on this. If I could just call up that graphic that we have. There we go. Guess who won the endorsement, the much coveted endorsement of Taylor Swift? Well, it was Kamala Harris. So that's important. I mean, we laugh about it, but it's important because she has 283 million followers just on Instagram, and she's just finished a wildly successful world tour as well. Broadly, what did you guys think? Are you getting a better sense of whether their performances were enough to swing votes their way? Let's start with Gabriel.
Yes, definitely. I believe that Vice President Harris's performance tonight definitely swung some votes down her way. I have a feeling that a lot of people are still very skeptical in terms of if she's Biden 2.0 or if they're going back to her old track record of her being a prosecutor here in California, or even if she does have a plan or a vision. I think it was very clear tonight that one of these 2 candidates had a plan and a vision for the future, and that was Vice President Harris. Most importantly, in her closing statement, she always talked about never going back and also turning a new page forward, as you already saw what a Trump administration looks like. Although she was being criticized for why not do the policy she was suggesting while she's in office, what Kamala spun it as is, similarly, why didn't you do whatever you did when you were in office? And so those arguments of going back into the past and then reviving the past rather than looking forward to the future is something that I feel inspired many, and it's having many people starting to lean towards Kamala after this debate.
What about you, John? What do you think? Did former President Trump convince any undecided voters?
Absolutely. I think in the swing states where these battles are going to be going down to, and as a matter of fact, a lot of Filipino Americans are going to be in those areas that's going to be affected by this, conversation. I do believe that he's expressed his message since day one, since he ran, and I think it's quite interesting for the media to call Kamala Harris's plan as successful already, and how she's developed all these ideas when she really released these plans the day before the debate. She's been installed as the new nominee for the Democratic Party for president for over 50 days, and she's been avoiding interviews and spot up issues and talking to the press about these policies that she's rolling out. But however, in the debate last night, she came out as somebody who is well prepared on these plans when they've only been released a day before. So, it's kind of interesting to see that perspective when the former president, President Trump, has showed his policies into GOP platforms, not Project 2025, but his own platform along with the GOP platform since day one. And so I think, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris had a lot to show for in her debate last night in terms of explaining to the American people her policies and her plans. But it's just hard to believe that you can just say it's a new way forward when we are living in this current present, and all of these ideas and policies that she's thinking and proposing has resulted in these economical strenuous times for our Filipino American people and our American people across the country. So that is the message that I hope that the folks at home got to really analyze and really see is what is her plan? Is this something that is deceptive, that just been, rehearsed over the 7 days that she was holed in her hotel room prepping for the debate with the Obama advisors and Hollywood folks that really rehearsed this fantastic, candor in speech when it comes to her talking points. So I think she really won the soundbite vote and making sure that they'll be able to use that in future ads down the road. But in terms of authenticity, I think President Trump has shown who he is and showed his still same personality of being aggressive and towards making America great again.
Well, it seems that this performance was able to convince you somehow to listen to Vice President Kamala Harris. You're right, that has been the criticism against her. And Trump even said that you have no policy, you're the same as Joe Biden, whatever his presidency is, that is you. Do you think she was able to define herself apart from the Biden administration clearly? And do you think that former President Donald Trump was caught off guard? He seemed irate the whole time. He was put on the defensive. Very, very different position compared to the Atlanta debate, where he was so confident, taking jabs at President Biden.
Yeah, I think, Vice President Harris, really was very rehearsed, and it's a good scripted speech, and it just showed what she's been since she's been installed. It seems like it's just been a script the whole time around, right? And these are policies that are coming from the Biden administration, or is it Obama, or what's actually her policies, right? And so I think she still has in these next 53 plus days to really keep defining herself to the American people, and really show her authenticity, which, to be honest, it hasn't really been shown. And President Trump, he was a little bit more defensive last night, of course, and as you can see, you've got a younger opponent compared to President Biden, but the story still stays the same of him trying to get with them in terms of attacking their policies and how it's been a detriment to the American people. So I think that in terms, yes, you can see that he was livelier tonight. And I can see that in terms of the Republican policies that he was pushing for, he was a lot more aggressive in that tone. So I think to the base and to the supporters, that shows a very strong President Trump that can go against anybody.
Okay, Gabriel, I want to ask you this question first. We all know that the U.S. uses an electoral college system, meaning popular votes, unfortunately, do not count. Now, we're talking about just a few swing states here. Crucial vote, a narrow margin. Some are calling it razor thin, right? What key issues have you guys figured out when it comes to these swing states and the issues they want to hear about, that they want to hear clear plans about? And do you think that was addressed in the debate tonight?
I believe the swing states want to hear a lot about immigration, especially national/homeland security, and also the economy. So on the immigration front, President Trump's policy proposal, as bare as it was to deport 10 or to 11 million people in the United States, which, as a part of that, I should mention, a lot of Filipino Americans in the United States are also a part of that undocumented population. And so as wanting to deport that 10 to 11 million, he talked about using local law enforcement, using the military. But when pressed upon going door to door, he couldn't answer that question. And so what that really shows us, similar to his response to the healthcare side of things, is President Trump has concepts of a plan, but because he's not president, he doesn't have a plan. And on the flip side of things, Vice President Harris was put in charge of the Biden-Harris administration's plan to create a response to the border. And what we saw in the border bill that was introduced in Congress, as Harris pointed out, is that Donald Trump called up his Republican members within Congress to kill the bill, despite the bill being a bipartisan effort, both Democrat and Republican, to support it. That would have expanded Border Patrol, but also redefined asylum, as we see now. What's also really important to note is that even though the Biden administration right now, they did not change the policy prior to Trump, but rather they extended it and they expanded upon it to make it stricter so they can find out better ways forward for immigration. And so that as its own compromise, Vice President Harris is taking down, but also re-upping the fact that Donald Trump runs when he creates a problem for him to run on. Whereas Vice President Harris is there to answer the problem and the solution when it's given. Another thing, on the economy, Vice President Harris, although, as John mentioned, did just recently release these plans do take time, especially that she wasn't the candidate at the time. But her plan is actually verified by Wharton, University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School of Business, which Trump got wrong, School of Finance professors. And there are even tweets from Wharton School of Business professors saying that none of them reviewed Trump's plan and policy, but he lied on national television saying that they did. And so this opportunity economy that Vice President Harris is talking about, with a $6,000 tax benefit, with a $12,500 small business startup grants, and also much more, such as buying homes. I don't think we realize this, but with homes being assets in the United States, it is a carry-on of generational wealth. And so these very clear plans, albeit released just recently, being released the day or two before the debate, provided Vice President Harris the opportunity to share them on a national stage and explicitly state that she's not Joe Biden, that she's not Donald Trump, that she is her own unique person that has her own unique plans. Biden didn't mention any of these policies back in the last debate, so it's very clear that Vice President Harris has found a way to differentiate herself from the prior president.
Right. Well, immigration, the economy, abortion, you're right that these are the issues that matter to swing state voters. But let me put it this way. What did you guys not hear that you were hoping the candidates would touch on, especially from your lens as Filipino Americans? John, let me start with you.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. I think I'd love to hear more on terms of the, Vice President's clear policies and how she differentiates herself from her boss. That's the problem in this race is, she can only run so far away from Joe Biden until she has to be returned back into, being tagged into it because she can't run away from it. She's had a clear honeymoon bump since she's been installed to be the replacement of President Biden. But she hasn't been clear about these policies. And I mean, come on, in Washington, D.C., you can release policies, options in 2 or 3 days. And if you've got a presidential staff that's working around the clock and it takes you 1 day before the debate, it seems a little bit more deceptive to the American people. In terms of the economy and in terms of immigration, as you can see, these are still the number 1 and 2 issues that's really wrangling our folks here in the United States. And it's clear post debate that the folks still saw Donald Trump as a strong person when it comes to the economy and into the case of the immigration. In terms of immigration in these swing states, these are a key issue, especially to our Filipino Americans there too, right? Especially the folks that came in and did everything legally to come to the United States. Unlike from folks in the southern border that crosses over, they tend to just walk, we had to come to the United States. We had to get some sort of visas. And then for us to extend that and make the decision to stay longer. But in this case, we've got folks, Filipino Americans, that share the sentiments of, man, it's a slap to the face to our community that does everything legally, waited for the proper legal years to become a citizen. Right. And now to see that their benefits and some of the health benefits that they're seeing coming being given and displaced to the illegal immigrants. So that is a very, very important issue to our folks that's in the border, and especially the economy as well. They're working more, saving less. Budgets are stretching thin. They have to decide, $1,000 doesn't go far anymore. And they have to really decide between their family members and investments and the future. And then what we also have to remember is majority of these Filipinos still send money back home to the Philippines and to supporting their families. So those are really the issues that our Filipino Americans are feeling. And you can tell that there's been a shift in terms of the movement when it comes to that. And so hopefully it gives a strong movement coming to the election.
I'm going to have to apologize to Gabe because we've clearly run out of time for a rebuttal, but we will have you guys on another time. It's still about 2 months away. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for talking to us. It's been a very long 24 hours for you. That was Phil-Am community leaders John Jose and Gabriel Young. We appreciate your time.
Coming up next, after skipping budget deliberations, Vice President Sara Duterte now says she does not mind having the OVP totally defunded. More on that when the big story returns. Keep it here. Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News. The third installment of Vice President Sara Duterte's self-recorded interview has dropped, and in it, she says she's okay for her office to be totally defunded. She says it's all part of an alleged coordinated plan to take her down.
90% ng mga tanong, confidential funds. Kahit na 2024 at 2025, wala ng confidential funds ang Office of the Vice President. So yan yung explanation ko, mahabang explanation ko. Meron na silang nakahandang PowerPoint presentation, meron na silang nakahandang audiovisual presentation, meron na silang nakahanda na script na binabasa.
But House Appropriations Committee Chair Representative Zaldi Ko vehemently denied this, saying she's the one reading from a script. He also brought up the fact that the Commission on Audit has issued a notice of disallowance on 73 million pesos of confidential funds spent by the OVP in 2022.
Hindi po totoo yan. Siya po ang scripted, siya po ang budol, peke po, dahil nakita niyo naman may binabasa siya. Pinaral niya na meron siyang mga kakampi na nag-abogado sa kanya, nandun na, si minute, di ba? Ibig sabihin, ayaw niya talagang sumagot sa confidential fund dahil hindi niya kayang ipaliwanag. Kasi ninakaw niya yung pera. Ang tanong dyan, isauli niya dapat yung pera.
Ko also said that the committee is now studying whether or not to decrease the OVP budget, as there are a few overlapping social programs with other agencies. Now, for context, the OVP budget under Duterte's predecessor, Leni Robredo, never reached 1 billion pesos. It more than doubled when Duterte took over in 2023. Other lawmakers also denied that there are impeachment talks against VP Duterte, saying that attacking vice presidents or vice presidents was a game plan of the previous administration.
So dapat yung pera pang ayuda pera pang tulong sa taong bayan, ibigay sa agency for check and balance. Katulad namin sa Kongreso, ang DSWD na pang-ayuda sa may hirap, dapat ibigay natin sa DSWD kasi sila yung agency para walang politika. Siya po ang namumulitika.
I have heard talks of impeachment, but coming from her. We don't hear it here in Congress. I can guarantee you that po. Maybe that's the playbook of the previous administration, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't care who the president will be in 2028. What we care about is the budget now. Yun lang po yung masasabi ko siguro sa any ploy that there might be.
House Quad Committee Co-Chairman and Surigao del Norte 2nd District Representative Robert Ace Barbers. I'm not sure if he's joining us. Oh, he's joining us via Zoom this evening. Congressman Ace, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Can you hear us okay?
Hi, good evening, Gretchen, Sean, and Regina, and sa ating mga kababayan, good evening, and thanks for having me.
Okay, so a lot of things have happened since Monday's here, or the last hearing last week. That was on Friday, nung na-hospital si Cassandra Ong. Now, there is a decision to postpone Alice Go's appearance at the next Quad Committee hearing. We already have Cassie Ong out of the hospital, but she did run to the Supreme Court and filed a petition for certiorari. What is the plan of the Quadcom now?
Well, we will still invite both Alice and Cassandra because we believe that they have to answer a lot of the questions coming from the members of the Quadcom. And most of these information that we need are actually kept by these two witnesses. And if they will not answer to the questions that will be propounded to them by the members, then we might be compelled to write a report that is perhaps will be considered by them one-sided. We gave them the opportunity. This is due process. We're actually waiting for them to reply to the questions that will be raised. And hiding behind a certiorari or hiding behind a right against self-incrimination is not going to help in ferreting out the truth. So what are they afraid of? We already know the story. We just needed to hear it straight from them. And if they will not speak, then we will be again compelled to write a report that may not be favorable to them.
Congressman, I'm just wondering how you will change or pursue the line of questioning, because we did see it happen with Alice Go over in the Senate, and she either does not remember, does not know, or invokes her right against self-incrimination. I'm just wondering if the threats to their lives are real. And we had Attorney Ferdinand Topacio here yesterday night. What is your game plan? Are you possibly considering an executive session first? Is that possible? Are you going to change anything?
To add to that, no? Sorry, Gretch.
Well,
An executive session with their lawyers present as per the rules. That's what Attorney Topacio told us last night, that the reason why Cassandra refused an executive session was because her counsel was not going to be allowed into this session. Would you consider, and why not consider, an executive session with counsel present?
Because we don't need a counsel of the witness in an executive session. The reason why the committee will perhaps extend or grant the executive session to a witness who requested that is because there are national security implications that may come out after she reveals something. So if I don't think there is a need for a lawyer there. We know her rights. We will protect her rights. We know, and she can answer all the time that she will invoke her right against self-incrimination, and we will respect that. But having a lawyer inside a room where we are having an executive session is actually not a logical thing to do. For us, that's not even in our rules.
So did I hear you right, Cong Ace, that you will still invite them, and if they, And if these two ladies keep answering that they will invoke their right to self-incrimination or just refuse to answer questions, that's going to be okay with the Quad Committee?
Well, again, no, as we always say, we respect the rights of the witnesses, and that's up to them. If they don't want to cooperate and reveal important and vital information to the Quad Committee, that's their right. Again, we might be compelled to write a committee report that will not be very favorable for them. So and that's their lookout. We're giving them all the opportunity. We are exercising due process, and they know that. Even their lawyers know that, because otherwise we could have just written a report and make this report an adverse report against them. So now that we want to hear them, we want to hear them speak and answer questions propounded by the members of the Quadcom, so that there will be a semblance of balance in our committee report writing. So again, no, that's their lookout. If they will not cooperate, they will not share vital information. That right against self-incrimination from these two witnesses is actually abused. No, if a member asks you, where do you live, where did you study, is that a incriminating question? It's not. So because their lawyers have actually coached them to say that, so that they know we cannot compel them to speak. So again, this is the lawyer talking. When they invoke such right on questions that are purely not incriminating, saan ka nag-aral, sinong kasama mong umalis, sino nagpaalis sa'yo, that's not even incriminating. So kaya nga ang ating panawagan, we urge our Filipino citizens, especially these lawyers, they're just there to make sure that they are given a fair trial. And if instances where they have points to defend their clients, that's the way it is. That's due process. And this is what we're granting these witnesses. But they still fail to cooperate, then we might be compelled to write a committee report that will not be favorable for them.
Congressman, we know for a fact that Cassandra Ong's legal team does not see it that way. They don't agree that Congress has been lenient with them. And I will quote Attorney Topacio. Like we said, he was here with us last night. He used the words bamboozled, browbeating, and congressional abuse to describe the hearings. He says Congress is essentially overreaching, that it is not a judiciary, and therefore it does not have the right to determine a person's innocence or not. Could I have you respond to that,
that's
please?
true. He's correct, but he's wrong in saying that we bamboozled the witness. We never did that. It's live on Facebook and live on national TV. And people can say whether the statement of the lawyer, Attorney Topacio, is true. No, definitely not. And it's far from reality. Overreaching, that's an overstatement. It's not. You can see, from the videos of how we conducted the hearings in the Quad. We gave Cassandra all the opportunity. We always protect her rights. In fact, we always call the attention of the lawyer, because there are questions that are being asked, and sometimes it's the lawyer who's answering the question. It's not anymore the witness. And under our rules, the lawyers or counsels of witnesses can only be present, but limited to their ensuring that their clients' rights are protected. But they're not allowed to coach their clients. Otherwise, we could have asked the lawyers straight the question, di ba?
All of us here watch the hearings in full. We tune in every time, even no matter how long or short it is. But of course, it's different being there in person with her. And I was wondering if you could tell us, what sense are you getting? Is Cassandra Ong really as innocent as she looks, or does she know more than she's letting on, or she's really just gotten caught up in all of this? Nadamay lang.
All I can say is she's more than meets the eye. So we all know that she knows a lot. In fact, she's the representative of all these legal pogo hubs. And she cannot say that she doesn't know any operation of these two corporations. So again, what we have extended to her is the exercise of due process for her. And we are making sure that all our witnesses in the Quadcom are extended the same courtesy, the same due process, and the same opportunity for them, no, to be able to voice out anything they want to say. We're not stopping them from saying things, except that when witnesses become unruly, uncooperative, and disrespectful, then there must be some committee action there.
Okay, hold that
So,
thought, Kong Ace. When you call her a witness, when you say fair trial, these make it sound like this is some sort of court case, when in fact it is a legislative inquiry. And I think this is what is really kind of confusing when it sets the tone for everyone watching. Like I myself, I'm not a lawyer, but I will admit, some parts make me very uncomfortable. Clearly, she doesn't want to answer, and clearly something has to give, right? Something has to change for the flow to like move into a different direction. What are you guys considering now? If you really want answers, the most truthful answers from Cassandra Ong, are you guys not willing to meet halfway?
Well, if she's not cooperative, she's not telling us things that are vital in this investigation, then let the court of public opinion judge her. And I'm sure she will not be judged fairly. Kasi hindi siya nagsasabi ng katotohanan. Wala siyang sinasabing, she always says, the statement, I invoke my right against self-incrimination. I don't want to participate. Now, what kind of a trial? This is not a trial. We're not a court. No? But our rules, the court rules, the rules of the court is superior to the rules of the House, where when we conduct investigation or inquiries in aid of legislation. So we follow the same rules of evidence, the same rules, but not too strict, not just like what the court does. So basically, we're the same. Yung objective namin is to discover what are the information we needed in order for us to be able to come up with a new legislation or maybe an amendment to an existing law. And of course, if we find culpability, liability amongst the witnesses that we ask to speak before us, then we will definitely also recommend possible prosecution and filing of criminal charges. If you're a government employee, administrative and criminal charges as well. But you have to participate, you have to cooperate, because if you don't cooperate, you are waiving your right against being heard. So at least in this court, in our court, or let's just call, quote unquote, the court of public opinion.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, I just remember that actually Attorney Topacio cited you nga as one of the more, what word did he use? Impartial, objective? Yes. He said you were more even-handed than your colleagues now because the other congressmen would badger her.
Okay.
So I guess Sean's question is, maybe you could try a different tack next time.
I'm surprised.
Or is it possible to give some assurances?
I'm the chair of the joint committee, so I have to be impartial. I have to be fair. We have to give equal opportunity to both sides, if there are both sides in that hearing, because we don't want to lose the credibility of this squad. This is a historic and unprecedented created committee in the history of Philippine Congress, and we don't want this to be judged as partial, biased, or maybe even unfair. No? But that's not what we want to happen. We're just here, we're investigating, we want to ferret out the truth on the issues that are four important national issues. Issues on drugs, issues on extrajudicial killings, issues on corruption, and issues on public order and safety. And that's exactly what we want to achieve. And we can assure the public that we will be impartial, we will be fair.
Okay, and what can we expect then next week when they resume? I think we're going to have you guys
There's
have
a
invited.
hearing tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
actually, right?
Tomorrow. Or
Yes, we do have a hearing tomorrow. No?
So
The
that's
hearing
pushing
tomorrow,
through?
our topic tomorrow is still extrajudicial killings.
Mm-hmm.
You see, there are a lot of witnesses coming out, and these witnesses that are asking the Quad if we can give them an opportunity to speak. Of course, you know what? Our first requirement in the Quadcom is that we vet. We vet all these witnesses who wants to speak. Second requirement namin, you have to execute an affidavit, a sworn statement, and it must be duly notarized. So that hindi mo kami pwedeng balikan saying that we pressured you, we taught you, we coached you on what to say and things like that. And nangyayari na yun. This has happened a long time ago. So we don't want that these things will not be done before we even present a witness. Now, on the issue of EJK, there are active and retired members of the Philippine National Police who wanted to speak. And because of that, they're all asking the Quadcom for time. And what we told them is that, yes, of course, we will listen to you, but you have to let us know first what are your issues. Because we don't want the committee to be used for their personal and their maybe political interests.
Okay, so tomorrow, EJKs, are you inviting Jed Mabilog? He is back? Or will you only invite him once he invites himself or, speaks of his
Well,
interest?
anybody is welcome to observe and watch and stay there. No? Anybody. We're not stopping anyone, especially from the public. But si Mayor Jed Mabilog, because we don't know where we will send our invitation. And we just found out that last night he arrived from somewhere. And that's why he's not invited in our committee. And we still don't know what he will say. That's why if he wants to say anything, he has to write to us and execute an affidavit.
Okay, and then next week we have the POGO hearing. We're gonna have Harry
Yes,
Roque and Alice and
yeah.
Cassandra again.
Magkakasama.
Magkakasama. Ano po yung plan for that? Can we expect something different? A different strategy perhaps? A different tactic from the Quadcom?
There is, but I'm sorry, but I don't have to. I cannot
it's okay.
reveal it to you because they might prepare for it. No,
Okay.
but I will tell you, our guests that we will invite are the same people. No, we want Cassandra Ong there. We want Alice Go there. We want beside them will be Harry Roque and maybe even the wife of Harry Roque and. Other personalities that have been attending our committee hearing on POGOs.
Right.
So definitely we want, and this will be the turning point, so to speak, on whether we will terminate or still continue. It will all depend on the issues that will come out as well as witnesses that will corroborate a statement made by any witness before the Quad that was made in the previous hearings.
Parang alam ko na, they're gonna play good cop, bad cop.
Si
No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
AR de la Serna.
Well, that could be a strategy.
Well, exactly, right? I have a feeling
That
that's
could
where
be a
you're gonna go.
I think they did that already during the 15-hour.
Last time it was all bad cop, bad cop.
The first
when you
one.
interrogate,
Yeah, exactly.
when you interrogate someone, you just don't hit that person right away. You have to, make him feel comfortable.
Yes,
make him
exactly.
Feel at ease.
Exactly.
Because there are tensions.
Right. That's what I'm
here
saying.
and there,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Congressman Barbers, last from me, you once told our sister program StoryCon that lawmakers are open to offering the possibility of being state witness to Cassandra Ong. Is that still on the table?
Yes. No, anybody who wants to speak the truth and feels that their lives will be at stake and they need the support of the government, as long as they are qualified and they are eligible, why not? No, we are offering this program for them to avail. No? If indeed their testimony will be a very important piece of the puzzle that we are building. So that still stands. The offer still stands. And for those witnesses who wants to avail of this program, as long as they are the least guilty, and of course, It will depend on what kind of information will they share before the Quad Committee.
Oh, they have to be the least guilty.
I think it's not the. It has to be they're not the most guilty.
Yeah.
Right.
The least guilty, yeah.
The least guilty.
So the people in the middle can be can avail of the program, but not
Well, it depends because
the boss.
The program will assess and evaluate whether they are eligible or not.
Okay, so it's not up to the Quadcom. Well, we'll let you go and let you.
We can make recommendations, and when we do recommend, the evaluation will start.
Okay, well, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us. We know you have a big day tomorrow.
We'll be tuning in.
We will be tuning in. And again, next week, House Quad Committee Chairman and Surigao del Norte, 2nd District Representative Robert Ace Barbers. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Speaking of, Cassandra Ong has turned to the Supreme Court for assistance as she faces pressure to testify during congressional investigations. Her lawyers, Attorney Ferdinand Topacio and Attorney Rafael Andrada, filed a petition for certiorari and prohibition against the House Quad Committee and the Senate Tri-Committee. The petition was sought, and I quote, to determine whether or not there has been a grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction on the part of any branch or instrumentality of the government. Ong is currently detained at the lower house, forced to attend the Quad Committee hearings related to the Pogo issue. Topacio has said the hearings have affected her mental health. He has counseled her to keep attending the hearings, but continues to invoke her right to remain silent.
That's the motion that you're talking about. Petition for certiorari.
Yeah, certiorari.
But
It's a mouthful.
We had a conversation with Attorney Ferdinand Topacio. Sinasabi niya, it is also well within the rights of anyone to be defended, to have representation.
Of course.
Yes. And even inside the Congress, he was saying, as per Congress rules, and they do have a whole committee just for, sticking to the rules, right? The Rules Committee. He says that a lawyer is, by right, allowed to be present at any time. Yes.
Which is what he was fighting for the last time, which is why they declined the executive session offer.
But I guess the Congress is looking for some sort of, genuineness on the part
that's the sense I'm getting as well.
Cassandra to say
cooperate.
the truth.
Same thing goes to the Senate, right? They have not allowed or given in to Alice Go's request for an executive session. But we have no more time, and just before we go, here is our big picture for tonight. It is 9/11. It has been 23 years since the attacks that toppled the World Trade Center towers and damaged the Pentagon and brought the United States to its knees. And this photo has been doing the rounds on social media again. It shows the towers after being hit. But at the bottom of the photo, there is a fire truck, just crossing the Brooklyn Bridge. That is Fire Engine Ladder Truck 118 on their way to the World Trade Center. This is their last known photo, as just 1 hour later, every single firefighter on that truck were among the nearly 3,000 people who died that day. This iconic photo was captured by amateur photographer Aaron McLean.
23 years.
Time flies, so I feel so old.
Yeah. This is one of those moments in the world's history wherein you remember where you were when you first heard, right? And at that time, it was, I guess everyone found out first through the TV, television, because social media wasn't as prevalent back then.
And on cell phones, we didn't have...
It was complete shock.
Complete shock. I remember where I was. I was in the in kind of a locker room with a television inside.
You're at the school. Well, I was at home, but also on the TV, right?
Also on the TV.
It's also interesting.
I think I was in class. I'm not quite sure.
But Lucky Gretchen is a young and
when you're young, and that's when
things like
planes. It's such a dream, right? To ride one, and then you see it one hitting.
And a lot of the reactions, initial reactions were, "Is this for real?" Because it's such a before that.
It did not look real.
Before that, the terrible day, terrorist attacks of that magnitude were just unthinkable, right? So.
And that's, it's changed the trajectory. Later, it is also a momentous day for America. 2 months to go before the elections.
What they're calling a historic elections.
Well, Paris have enough time to
Or
She
Trump,
does.
whichever
Or
way
Trump.
you sit.
Whoever stands up for Trump when Taylor Swift had already stood
know,
up for the
right?
DNC. Okay, that's all the time we have for the show tonight.
We are one news, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.